A lot of symbolism at Avebury. I usually do the talk first and then we do the tour afterwards, so I don't want to repeat myself too much this afternoon. But one of the things about Avebury is that there's a lot of differences between Avebury and Stonehenge, which I'll tell you about during the talk this afternoon. But one of the things you'll notice immediately is that the stones aren't carved at Avebury, and yet virtually every stone at Stonehenge has been altered and carved or selected for its smoothness, but they didn't want that at Avebury. The priestesses at Avebury didn't want smoothness. They wanted all the stones to have the natural symbolism on them. Like here, you might be able to perceive a dragon that's plunging down the stone. And these stones have only weathered about 1 centimetre in 4,000 years, so therefore we're seeing the same images that our Neolithic ancestors were looking at, which I think is pretty cool. And of course, under the plunging dragon's head, you can see a hair. So what Paul Devereux calls open sequence, the face, the eye and the back. So you could say that's just coincidence, and of course it is a chance weathering, but of course they brought stones into the circle that have these images on. There used to be an outer circle of between 98 and 100 stones with a henge, a ditch the other side and a henge bank the other side. It's a true henge, in other words the bank is on the outside of the ditch, which means it can't be defensive because you'd have the ditch on the outside. The Stonehenge is just for the elite. And but in Avebury, I think everybody's involved. Look at this. Look, you can get about 25 Stonehenges into Avebury. So this is for mass gatherings. Whereas I always feel at Stonehenge, it's for a few elite that are going inside. I feel Stonehenge is more of a male site. It's very engineered. It's like a big Lego kit, isn't it, when you think about it? Whereas at Avebury, they've left the stones natural. So we're looking just a quarter of the circumference of the stone circle there. So that we're just in the field that occupies 1/4 of the northeast quadrant. So we're going to go around in a clockwise direction, so you'll be able to be orientated. And so originally you see that stone there and that stone there, and those trees there, evenly shaped trees. There'd have been a line of stones in this quadrant, probably about 25 stones. So you can see some stones in front of us there and one the other side of the tree. So if you can imagine an inner circle, and there's 2 of these, this is called the circle of the moon. There's more stones in the next field, which they call the circle of the sun. But inside those circles there's more sites, so it's like wheels within wheels at Avebury. So you've got what's called the cove. And William Stukeley, when he came, he pictured another stone here, which was later demolished. People seem to think it feels like a womb, it's like a receptacle, because there used to be a stone that used to stand in front, and at the summer solstice the sun would rise over the stone and a phallic shaped shadow would come and shine into this cove, so it's like fertilising the inside. And wherever you go you see a mixture of fat or lozenge or diamond shaped stones, and you see a mixture of phallic shaped stones, so it's all about balance. I don't see that at Stonehenge. At Stonehenge, virtually every stone is phallic. The uprights, the lintels, most of the Welsh stones, they're nearly all kind of pillar stones, whereas at here, I think they're reflecting what they see in the universe, which is a perfect balance of yin and yang. That's what Avebury says to me. It's a site that's very balanced. And you find that all around Avebury. When we go around the outer circle later on, I'll show you that the stones are male and female, then male. We'll show you a lot of symbolism as we go around. And of course, as lay hunters, of course, we can't come here without mentioning the St Michael line. Everybody familiar with the St Michael line that goes from Cornwall up to East Anglia? Yeah. I'll talk about that during the talk, but it's actually part of a line of energy that goes around the planet. But I'm not going to talk about energy lays today. I mean, for me, a ley line is a straight alignment. I'm going to go with that one. But there are, of course, energy currents that go around the central ley, and I can demonstrate that better in the talk this afternoon. So this ley line that Hamish Miller and Paul Broadhurst studied, they found that a male and female current goes round the energy like a caduceus. You know, the caduceus symbol of the 2 serpents. They're following the central alignment, which is aligned with the Beltane or Lammas sunrise. So, and modern, you know, it's well known that the everybody says it's lined up with the Beltane sunrise, but actually there's a lot of people now who are saying it should be more the Lugnasad sunrise, because that actually fits it better. And of course, St Michael took over the role of Lug, who's the god of the sun hills. I'll explain what the Michael and Mary current do locally in the talk this afternoon, but what's interesting, after being separated since they left Windmill Hill, the Michael and Mary current, the energy lines, the currents actually meet at the cove generally. In Dowses, we've got several groups here, and we've done research trips here, and there's all sorts of energy here. You have to be really specific what you ask for when you dowse. The stones have auras, there's this energy modes coming out of the ground everywhere, so you have to be really specific, and we are going to do some dowsing. But what happens, the Michael and Mary currents, the serpents, actually meet in the cove, which perhaps that's why the cove is here. The Michael current generally comes through the northern entrance, because there's 4 entrances, more or less north, south, east and west. One of them has been altered slightly, but they're more or less with the compass points. So if you're an ancient pilgrim, whichever direction you come from, there's an entrance for you to come in. So the Michael current generally comes through there. The Mary current generally comes through that stone there. I mean, it may not have done originally, but of course, because it's the only stone in the field now, perhaps it's attracting the energy to it. Because, we could move that stone to the right if we wanted to, and I could more or less guarantee you that Mary would move with it. We know that from crosses and standing stones being moved over the years. There's lots of records of this, and the energy will just find the stone at the new site. So, and the actual material of these stones, these are, the makeup of these is kind of 90% quartz. And silica, of course, quartz and silica they use a lot in healing. They hold a charge, they hold memory. So these are like big quartz crystals sticking out the ground. That's one way of looking at it. And if you go on the sunny side of some of them later on, you'll actually see the little tiny quartz grains, glistening in the sunrise. So again, these are not solid. They might look solid, but they're not. Quantum physics will tell us that there's as much space in the stone as there is, stone crystals. So I think the ancients knew this. So this stone can really get charged up as well. Blood's being churned up. So it's like when the Michael and Mary come together, and it's not till the other side of this stone that the energies are actually, it's like the Heras Gammas, it's like the sacred marriage which a lot of ancient religions talk about. These two serpents are like making love for about 400 yards, and their energies are entwining. So the earth can be very sensuous. And if you want to just use one, it'll show you what the prominent direction is for this day. And look how my rod is moving. It's like a kind of huge donut to me. Homer Simpson would love this, a donut this size. So but the stone, it wasn't carved, the stone was selected because it had the circle on. That's the point. They're not carving these stones, but if you go 2 miles over that ridge, and Sue and I have done, in our Albion Dreamtime book, we actually include Fifield Down. It's like a lunar landscape. These huge stones are all over the field, some, huge. So they were able to go along, the shaman, the priestess was able to say, we'll have that one, we'll have that one. They probably said, you sure you want that big one? Don't you want a little bit smaller? So some of these are 100 tons. What's the weight of that coach that went past earlier on? I don't know, 20 tons, 15, something like that.
Yeah.
So that big luxury coach that went by, you say 4 of those, that's the weight of that stone. So this is no mean feat.
So Peter, when you talk about the stones sort of packing down the energy, does the stone have to be buried in the ground, or can it be just lying on the ground?
They can be just lying on the ground. There's a lot of stones that are now prone will still attract the energies to them. At Arbelow, a lot of those stones are, they're all prone now, aren't they? But a lot of them are full of energy. I'm going to show you a diagram by Tom Graves this afternoon, where it actually shows the chakras, the energy spiralling up and down the stone. And he says under the ground there are 2 chakra points. So in other words, these stones aren't just going in the ground to make them earth fast. I mean, you could probably plonk that stone on the ground and it would have been okay for centuries. But by putting them in the ground, as well as making them more stable, you're accessing the underground energies. Because if you look at the energies we're dowsing, there's a snake, a serpent, a round serpent. Generally, it's just the top of the serpent that's above the ground. Now do you get me? So if you look at it like the tube train in London, you know, you're looking at the top, but there's the other bit underneath that you can't doubt. So I think that's what these stones are accessing personally. So we're only getting half the story on the Earth. Don't forget the Earth is 3D. There's a lot of stuff going under the ground that we aren't privy to. Michael and Mary have now they're now making love, if you like. You know, they're spiralling around each other. And although there were a couple of faces on the stones at Stonehenge, the two faces at Stonehenge actually face north. They face towards Avebury. So perhaps it's giving them a clue as to what's going to happen up here. But all the other stones at Stonehenge have been smoothed off. But here, what they wanted, they didn't want to smooth them off. These are the same sarsen stones, the same deposit that they used on the big stones at Stonehenge. They were built about the same time. So here they chose the opposite. They wanted all these holes and crevices and faces. If you look around here, there's one of the best heads in Avebury. Unmistakable. The sun's catching it really nice. You've got a right-facing head with a horn at the top going back over its head. You've got a bit worn smooth there. You've got a lovely nose. You've got a mouth.
There's an elephant there, I think.
Yeah, some people say elephant. Yeah. And the thing is, the point about Avebury and these stones, whatever animal you see is correct, because you know, perhaps you were being gifted your totem animal. So I might see an elephant, somebody else might see a dog, somebody else might see whatever, an oxen, and you're all correct. That's the thing. And don't forget, they were using hallucinogens in those days for rites of passage. You know, there were 15 hallucinogenic plants growing in Wiltshire in the Neolithic. So everything you wanted to have an out-of-body experience, they were taking mead as well, food deprivation, sleep deprivation, and perhaps they were sat in front of these stones with the shape as their spirit guide being gifted to them. So we've had big groups in front of here, and you know, they've all spotted different animals and different eyes. Some of them I've never spotted before. So Terence Mearden did the first work on this work, but we spotted a lot of other faces since then. And some of them are astronomically aligned. This one, I've actually stood here for the midwinter sunset. This one is facing the midwinter sunset. So a lot of the heads at Avebury are facing astronomical directions. And here, which again, I can stand in. Can you hear how my voice is getting a little bit deeper?
Yeah.
Again, oh. So again, I'm in the vulva of the Earth Mother, waiting for the sun to rise. So the sun at the winter solstice is being rebirthed. So this is the perfect stone for an initiate to be rebirthed. Winter and in the summer sometimes, because the stones get really nice and snuggy warm. So there's lots of little holes. All these holes are actually formed by fossil tree roots that have eroded away. But some of them at the bottom are very unround and very worn. So we think this is possibly the yoni of the Earth Mother. You can see how worn that one is, and it's definitely not round. They wanted the imagination to come alive, and I never get that feeling at Avebury, at Stonehenge. I think at Stonehenge there's a few elite priests in the middle, doing all the work and having all the power. Looks like a dragon today, well that's good enough for me. Whatever is revealed to you today is what you're meant to experience. And then go straight through this chapel, which is a line more or less exactly north-south. So, you know, is it a coincidence that it's exactly where the Michael and Mary crossed the road? So it's a Methodist chapel, but we know John Wesley was a Freemason. The Methodists were very turned on with a lot of sacred geometry. You see the shape of that, the shape of the chapel is a lovely rectangle. So yeah, it's right on the flow of the Mary current. So as the parishioners are in there, they're getting charged up with all that lovely flow. Did they know that's where the Mary current and the Michael current were coming through? Perhaps they didn't. Perhaps they just felt that this felt a good place. Perhaps they felt that God was present around. You'll see it's a massive circle. You know, the two circles inside Avebury would be included in the top 10 diameter of circles on their own around the world. So these are massive in their own right. But when you consider our surroundings by the bigger circle, you can see the outer circle there. There's a few more stones in this section. So, and the other side of it was the bank and ditch, which surrounds the whole site. So there's a line of little stones there, smaller than all the rest. Why is that, I wonder? Let's go and have a look and see if we can find out. Paul Broadhurst found all those years ago that the Michael and Mary current are both coming straight through the chapel. What a coincidence. And generally going down this row of little stones. Because with with the chakras of the stones, of course, there's usually one chakra that's above the whole stone. Well, usually you can't access that with the big stones, it's way above your head. But here, of course, you can. If you've got a pendulum, I saw you with a pendulum earlier on, if you put them on the top of these stones, you might get a reaction. Let's have a look. Again, stones are just like people, they've got chakras, they've got auras. We could douse the aura of this stone. We've got this big block of stone just full of energy. Again, that's not the wind that's pushing that around. Sometimes it's clockwise, sometimes it's anti-clockwise. So if you know anything about healing, you know your crown chakra, really whizzy, it's your connection to the cosmos, as above, so below. Between the two stones, they have personality, they've all got different energies, and each stone in Avebury is unique. You won't see two stones the same. Whereas at Stonehenge, they were trying to make the stones fairly similar, I would say. And so it's a really good example of the curved energies. When you go down the avenue as well, I'll show you the avenue on the talk later, and you'll see that it's definitely serpentine. By the stone, it had to be really tall to clear the bank the other side, so that the shadow would cast into the yoni of the Earth Mother. I mean, how cool is that? Completely clitoris above it, which has been worn smooth by people touching it over many thousands of years. So you're welcome to partake in this ancient ritual. It's really ancient. Again, if this stone had been there or there, this alignment and the shadow penetrating the vulva of the Earth Mother could not have occurred at Beltane. So it's quite amazing. We are so lucky. This stone was broken up and put back together again. We are so lucky that this stone survives. But it makes you wonder the other images we've lost, if the stones marking other astronomical events. Lovely eye there. When we come here overnight with our torches on our night walk, that the shadow in the eye kind of really changes. It's really eerie. Not just an astronomical alignment, which you get in stone circles all over the world, but one where the symbolism actually lines up with the astronomy on a certain day. And of course, Beltane, May Day, represents the fertility of the year. And at the other end of the year, Lamas Gugnisar is representing the harvest festival, the gathering in of the harvests. So I think both of those festivals are really significant for this stone. So at the top, there's a sort of head here, and a snout, and like a spiral in the body, and then a tail there. It's this one that I like. Can you see it? If you were to ask a 5-year-old child to draw a dragon head, they would draw this. The eyebrow, look at the eye, look at the triangular eye with the eyeball and the snout and the nostril sticking out, and its body is folded up. Here's its tummy sticking out. Somebody said it's had its arm pierced, which is quite interesting. He always looks a bit sad, he's looking down at the ground, so I always come and acknowledge him. They're both facing due south, so they're fire dragons. Dragons are amazing. Well, if you see it as a dog, that's fine. Whatever you see is the message you're meant to get. And I think it was the same 4,000 years ago. So again, it's all in the eye of the beholder, whereas at Stonehenge they didn't want any of this. They wanted them all smoothed off. They wanted them to look like big Lego kits, which is what they got. But the priestesses here, they want something more that fires your imagination, that you can work with shamanically. This notch. You know, like you have a notch on the end of a rifle barrel if you're at the fairground. So the reason it does that is because the skyline is higher than us. So any idea what this stone is called? Have a guess. And we thought, well, if it's just coincidence, let's turn all the pictures upside down and see how many faces we get. Which is the point. What do you think this stone's called?
It's like a horse.
A horse, yeah. Oh, we've had all sorts of animals for this. We've had foxes. Was it hippopotamus once? I'm thinking, where? And the actual, this is another astronomical direction, because if you come here at Beltane or Lammas sunset, it'll set just to the left of the church in perfect alignment with this horse. So again, another hidden astronomical event. So
there's a lion looking the other way.
A lion looking the other way, yeah. I love this eye, it's so expressive. Yeah. This eye, really mournful. And if ever you come on our nighttime walks, you kind of, whoa, you see these faces in a different light. Stones here, then you've also got the energy going around the stone circle is just because most of the stones have gone doesn't mean the energy isn't still going around. And then you've also got the auras of the stones overlapping, because the auras of these stones are dual auras. I can, again, stones have auras just like people do. So I'm going to focus on that one. Again, if I focus on that one, you can ignore this. So it's showing the aura of the stone. Coming through here and the auras of the stones overlap. It's a great place to meditate under the full moon. Oh, amazing. And so what happens the other side here, the Michael and Mary are going to separate, and they don't come together again for a couple of miles at the sanctuary. So the Michael current is going straight on through those trees. They're the tallest trees in Avebury. They're very tall trees. And the Mary current is their way relatively, although I think she takes the dip. I've actually measured the Mary current disappear just this side of the fence. So I can go see that thorn tree. It's the only thorn tree in that hedge. It's a very happy tree. It's the Mary flower has kind of beeline for it, so it's a picture of symbiotic thing. And then the Mary flow goes over Waden Hill, which I think originally was Woden's Hill, and finds Silbury. So the Mary flow goes to Silbury, the pregnant tummy of the Earth Mother, and the Michael flow is going down the Serpentine Avenue. But you'll see there on the talk this afternoon. So this is where they separate for a couple of miles and they meet at the sanctuary again.
How far are we from Silbury?
From Silbury, about a mile, something like that. You'll see it in the morning. You can actually, the only place you can see Silbury Hill from in Avebury is actually the obelisk. So what a coincidence. You can actually see it. So again, the acoustics are good here. Can you hear? There's a bit of a green man type skull in there. That's, you're looking south, so you get the high sun, the high moon. You'd have seen the Southern Cross and Alpha Centauri visible over that hill in the Neolithic. The Earth has tilted, so you don't get those stars now. But the alignment with the old axis is actually the Northern Cross and the Southern Cross.
So Southern Cross would be a Cygnus or not?
No, the Northern Cross is Cygnus, the Southern Cross is Crux, which isn't visible now. So yeah, Cygnus is correct. So Cygnus used to dip below the horizon slightly, but it doesn't do that now. It's circumpolar. So I think there'd have been a priestess here greeting all the pilgrims coming in, all the prehistoric pilgrims. Perhaps they had to make an offering, like paying your entrance fee, and then you'd be able to go in the front door. I don't know. So
it does have a real portal. It is a big.
It is, yeah. And half the stones have gone. So what was the power? What would the energy be like at that spot when all the stones were in position? So Adrian, wait for your words of wisdom. He's sitting on the shaman's chair.
He's just there to collect the rest.
No, usually you wait for your membership fee. Night, and I put the flashlights on it. It's like, whoa, it's really it's Halloween stuff. So, and it's at a slight angle. It's facing the midwinter sunset, which is the perfect angle. It's the death time of the year, but also the rebirth. Perfect angle for a skull to be facing the midwinter sunset. Not astronomically, but it's where it actually sets, because of course the bank is higher than the skyline, so it sets earlier to the left. So the next one, due to be female again. Wider. The next one again, phallic shaped again. So what amazing, isn't it? Now what Deborah calls open secrets. When I was doing the West Kenny talk, I had musicians up there, and I bought them here. And these holes, although they're natural, they've selected this stone. And I think they used to cover these holes with animal skin done by wax or clay. And I think they would have used them as drums. And the best hole is round the other side. And again, when you chant, you can hear how the echo. So again, Avebury is about interaction, not just looking at some conceit priest doing the stuff in the middle like at Stonehenge. So I'm going to invite you, if you wish, to chant into my orifice. Nothing's random at Avebury, everything's very carefully positioned, often with the astronomy in mind.
There seem to be a lot of elephants pictured at Avebury. Look at this one with a perfect eye, trunk and ear. This one near the chapel could be a complete elephant, with trunk, eye and feet. This one on the avenue could be an elephant's head, trunk, eye and ear. Here's another one with trunk, eye and ear. And this one where Peter's pointing out the dragon could be another huge elephant. Trunk, eye and ear. This one was taken by Molly Carey in 1966. See the long curving trunk, 2 ears, and one of its ears is also a human face. There are elephants at Stonehenge too. This one was also taken by Molly Carey in 1966. Another of Molly Carey's pictures showing an elephant with a long trunk reaching to the ground, an eye and an ear. On the opposite stone there is a tall figure in robes, very similar to one that I saw on one of the stones at Callanish in the Isle of Lewis. To see all of Molly Carey's pictures, see the video The Real Stonehenge and Avebury on this channel.